Alvarez. An assist also from Matheus Nunes for Alvarez. And at half-time, here at the Etihad Stadium, it is City 2, Burnley 0. Well, let's go back to the studio and we can join Cal.
Welcome back to the Matchday Live studio with me, Cal Spellman, alongside Gareth Taylor and Richard Dunn. Thank you for joining us. It's half-time here at the Etihad Stadium. 45 minutes played against Vincent Kompany's Burnley, and it's Manchester City 2, Burnley 0. 2 goals from the birthday boy, Julian Alvarez. That's called by none other than Gareth Taylor. You must be delighted with yourself there, Gareth. It was a great first half and 2 great goals from Julian as well.
Yeah, I mean, I managed to watch a bit of the training session yesterday and he looked super sharp. I think he's such an asset for the team, makes those runs in behind. It was quite interesting what Burnley were doing. You know, there was probably about 15 yards between their back and their front players and their back line. It was really compact, and they were not allowing City to make any long passes. And the first time, I think it might have been Phil who makes the pass for Nunes. First time they were able to put that ball in behind, and next thing the goal comes from it. It was really good awareness from Alvarez in the box, poor marking from Burnley, and then that set them off.
Set them off indeed, and I guess going in at half-time, it's a brilliant 45 minutes. And as an all-round display, I mean, Burnley haven't threatened too much, Richard, but it's been such an accomplished first-half performance from City, from everyone really.
Yeah, just so much control in the game and everything they do, and like Gareth says, it maybe took them 10 or 15 minutes just to work things out a little bit, which it does at times, and then it's normally an individual will do something which separates, I suppose, City from the rest, and today it's just Nunes has started to run beyond the Burnley backline, and it's causing them all sorts of problem, and then the space is there and they're all running back facing their own goal, and all of a sudden all that organisation goes out the window and a bit of panic sets in at times when you're facing your own goal. And I mean, Doku as well out on the left wing, when he gets it, he wants to run, he wants to push them back all the time. So I think it's been an excellent performance, and more like we've come to expect, and what we expect to see between now and the end of the season is a team that's really functioning well and really determined to win the game.
They really are in full flow. Let's pick up on Nunes. He got the assist for the first goal, which we'll talk about in a second, but what is it that he's been doing so well? Like, why has he been so effective? Obviously, we mentioned about his ball carrying skills there. Why is that hurting the Burnley defence so much, Gareth?
Well, he just must be so difficult to play against because he's so sharp and bright, and he makes really good runs. He's just a constant pest, and you know, he also helps the team back in their own third as well when they're defending. He really comes back and helps the team a lot. We were talking before, weren't we? We said last Nunes back there defending, like right in the final third for City. So he just brings so much, and his movement in the box is very, very good. He's very, very quick, big nuisance to play against, and he's bright as well. You know, the second goal proved that. Yeah.
Let's the assist he got for Alvarez. Obviously, we will get to that. The free kick as well, which was beautiful. But beautiful chop ball back, and it was a well worked move as well from City. But just before that, Richard.
Yeah, and it was it's almost simple because it's just a forward run, and when you're set up and you're all in your positions and you know what City are going to do, and they're going to pass the ball and move the ball, you don't expect then someone just to break the line and just run in behind, and you think, well, they don't play long balls, but when it need be, they do it. And they done it today. The timing of the run was brilliant. He sort of looks like he has that little bit of freedom, Nunes, to go and run him behind, and Kevin will drop and take his position behind him. But then in those positions, it's about the quality of what you do with the ball. And I think for the best players in the Premier League and players who play at the level that the City ones do, there has to be some sort of delivery at the end of it. It can't just be a hopeful shot or a hopeful cross. And the first one, the shot gets blocked, but he's still composed enough to do a little twist and turn and just put the ball right in the middle of the 6-yard box, and Alvarez can't miss. But the delivery isn't a trashed ball across the box. It's precise, and it's right in the player's head, and it's brilliant. And it'll do Nunes the world of good to have a performance like he's had in that first half, because it just gives him that belief that he belongs at this stage.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's well and truly cemented in that team there that's on the pitch, and as you say, hopefully as well, it can only get better for him. Second goal, who's back on the assist? None other than our captain, Kevin De Bruyne. A really well worked free kick. I mean, everyone around me was just going straight from the training ground, and it felt like that, didn't it, Gareth?
Yeah. My old mate Carlos was, Pep ran straight to him. You could see that it was something that they'd worked on. I think obviously Carlos will have highlighted that, just be bright because it looked like Burnley had switched off. And, you know, Kevin was sharp. He's got the quality to make that pass, and Julian makes a brilliant run and a really good finish. So, like you say, straight off the training ground.
How long are you preparing something like that? I mean, we know the hours that go in on the training grounds. You know better than anyone else. But with those routines, they'll be worked on all week, worthy. It's not just by chance, is it?
You don't know. Of course, it might be just something that they showed on a clip. It might be something that Carlos got Kevin and Julian together and just said, look, have a look at this. They really switch off. They turn away from the ball. If you can like get eye contact with each other. Or they might have gone through it loads and loads. You don't know.
Yes,
you don't know. Yeah. Sometimes these players are so bright. All you got to do is maybe give them little bits of information, and they'll look at the situation. Is it on to do it? Bang, we'll do it. And yeah, it's great when those things happen. And it was really good of Pep to really acknowledge Carlos's part in that process.
Yeah, it must be so rewarding as well when one does pay off. Looking at it from a Burnley point of view, it really feels like, you know, I don't want to sound, I'm talking too bad, but they've not really been in the game, or they've not been able to get in the game. Is there anything you think Vince and company will be wanting to try and implement or change just to help them maybe get a foothold and it not get kind of, you know, too big a scoreline, which is always a risk when you're playing City at home?
It's very difficult because they set up really well, and they played a higher line, and they didn't allow City to play longer balls to start with. So they actually started quite well. But then when you look at them and try and go, well, how do they affect the match? They look like they're lacking a certain profile of player in their squad. They don't have a big lad up front who can hold it up and they can all play off, or they don't have a quick lad who can run in behind. So with the players they've got and the squad they've got available to them, to compete against City and to really make a dent in City's performance tonight is difficult for them, because they don't have that real big threat to go in behind. And I've been in teams like that, and I've played in matches against teams like City, and it's hard. It's hard because for all the defending you do, you want that little breather, that little moment to get out and have a little bit of a rest. But looking at the Burnley team on the pitch, I don't see the player who can do it for them.
No, we were talking about it before. It's so difficult when you're in that, you know, because like Richard said, you haven't got that bit of pace out wide that's really going to hurt City. You've not got a big man up front who can maybe... The one chance they had was Sander Berg from the corner. Yes. It was like a free effort, and like we said at the beginning of the game, they get one or two of those and they've got to make them count, and they didn't make it count. And it's going to be a tough night for Burnley, but I also think looking at what they have at the moment, it's going to be a tough end of season as well, because you're just not sure where the spark's going to come from. You know, like Richard said, very well organised. You can see Vinny works really hard with them, but it's just level of players and being able to have those weapons at the top end of the pitch that are going to get you the goals you need.
And how much then will Winston Company have to do to try and lift his team, not just in this half-time team talk, but as you say, going into the second half of the season? Does it come from the manager and his staff to try and instill some form of belief, I guess?
Absolutely, yeah, of course. And he's got good staff around him there as well, but he'll be really strong on his beliefs in what he wants to see. And you know, we've seen good organisation. You know, they were playing like this really high line, but they were also getting pressure on the ball. And then when City dropped off and the ball went to Ederson, you could see they went player for player and ended up with a back three. So they've gone from like a back five into a back three at times. I've seen so many different formations, and you can see that they're really well drilled, and he's probably squeezing the maximum he can get out of this squad. It's just when you come up against the might of someone like City, it's going to be so difficult.
Of course it is. I think Pep said as well, actually, he was very complimentary, saying that he's seen every player improve under Company as well in their own ability, which kind of says a lot about Company. From the City point of view, Richard, I mean, much more of the same. I don't think we can ask much more. Maybe we'd like to see the big man come on and get a few minutes possibly in the second half.
Yeah, well, I'm sure that's what the manager would hope as well, just to get him back out on the pitch and get him available again. I think the performance has been really, really good in that first half. There's been opportunities to score more goals, and what always impresses me about City is because we love the fact that they control the ball, they move the ball. As soon as they lose it, the reaction to win it back is incredible. Every player just goes 100 miles an hour to try and get the ball back as quick as they can, and then they're really composed again and they start playing football. And when you play against that sort of tempo and intensity, eventually things start to break down in your defensive line, and as the game goes on, you might see a couple more opportunities for City to score goals, and you would expect if Haaland is on the pitch that he would take those.
He would take a few. I'd like to see that indeed. Listen, thank you for your questions on the WhatsApp. Let me run through a couple of these now. This was from Nicholas, all the way in Trinidad. Great to hear from you, Nicholas. And you mentioned about a lot of the time in the WSL, because the small games, it goes down to the final game of the season. Nicholas wanted to ask, given the run of form Liverpool's been on, could you see this season going down to the final day? Reminiscent, of course, maybe that final game when we beat Villa here at home.
Yeah, potentially, yeah. I mean, you know, Liverpool at the moment are the team to catch. They're in the ascendancy. Let's see what happens tonight with Chelsea. Maybe they can do City a favour tonight. But yeah, why not? It's happened before, hasn't it? You know, I think they're some of the most exciting Premier Leagues we've seen when it goes down to that final day. And, you know, I was here like many of us were last season or with the Villa game, and it was such a climax. You know, 1 minute you think you've got it and not, and then obviously before that we had the Aguero. Yes. You know, fantastic moments, but obviously really nervy affairs.
yeah, not good for the old ticker anyway. Being a City fan. Going to bring you up there actually. I know it's only just kicked off, but 0-0 Liverpool Chelsea. Brentford beating Spurs 1-0. We had some lovely comments as well around when we were talking about captaincies. Richard, so many complimentary messages here from yourself on yourself. Jez says Dunny was always my favourite. Vinny pushed him close, but Dunny did it in hard times and led us like a general. Also, Nuri said Richard Dunn was an amazing captain. He really showed the heart of a lion and pushed us on in so many games. So proud to have been around when Dunn was captain. Do you look back fondly on your time as captain? And I guess it's a real sense of pride, Richard. Yeah, I loved it. It was brilliant. It was a very different club to what it is now, and there was different expectations and different demands among the players then. But it was a privilege, really, you know, because it is such a special place and a special club that you can't help but fall in love with the fans, with the atmosphere, with what it means on a Saturday afternoon to lead the team out and to try and get results and try and perform to make people proud of what you're doing. And I think for all the captains of the club, that's the number one thing, is they want to make the fans proud. Yes. That's, I suppose, the aim of us all. It is, and I think actually when you speak for City fans, they're the players that become the club favourites, are the ones where you can see they are trying to do that for us and they leave it all on the pitch. And I can say, watching you as well, Richard, it was great fun. Gareth, going back to tonight's game, we have seen earlier on in the season, I do think we've moved past this now. Obviously, a 2-goal lead is great, but we've seen it's always not been enough, particularly here at home. So, guessing the players and Pep, that is in the back of the mind, and you'll be coming back out in the second half and to do the job again. Yeah, absolutely. That'd be the message. You know, 2-0 is always a bit of a funny scoreline. I think they'll be looking to get the early goal, City, for sure. And I think that the more that this game goes on, the tireder probably Burnley players are going to get, because it's physically really challenging what the game plan that they're coming here and executing. But also then when you look at potential substitutions from the sideline, fresh legs, you know, the fullback already is having a tough time out there against Doku. They sleep well tonight. And then, of course, you know, potential of bringing Jack on, maybe Haaland as well. You know, it's going to be really tough as the game goes on for Burnley. We were speaking actually just before the game, Richard, on, you know, we're looking at that bench now, a few players back from injury. We're starting to see that fuller squad, which is going to be so key, obviously not in this game, but in all the games to come, isn't it? Yeah, you could bring any one of those players on and it doesn't weaken the team in any way. I think that's the beauty of the squad. It's, if you're not at 100%, there's players that will always take your place, and it's hard when you look at the 18 or whatever it is involved tonight to pick a best 11, because you can just mix it and match it around, and that's, I think for them, they all know they've got a big part to play between now and the end of the season. If it's not tonight, well then they might start then on Monday, they might play in the Champions League final in a couple of months' time. So it's just about keeping them all as sharp as they can and ready to come on at any moment. Absolutely. Well, the boys are ready to come on there, so we'll leave it here in the studio. Remember, please do come back at full time. Get onto the Manchester City app now. Neil Lennon is alongside Alistair Mann in the commentary booth, and as I say, we'll be back at full time. Predictions still intact here in the studio as well. It's Manchester City 2, Burnley 0.
Well, welcome back to the Etihad Stadium. You know, Burnley haven't scored a goal against City in almost 13 hours of action. A pretty depressing statistic for them. They haven't hit a goal against City since December of 2019. And the reality is that they have had a couple of decent moments in the first half, but City lead by 2 goals to 0. The City players are the ones who emerge first from the Etihad Stadium tunnel. Ederson goes over to the right-hand goal, behind which the Burnley fans are congregated. And the Burnley players now come out and go through a sort of warm-up drill on this near side in a coned area just in front of the technical areas. Burnley are not out of this, but you do feel that when City need to, they can probably find another goal. Alongside me is a one-time City Academy player, Neil Lennon, who of course went on to do very, very good things at other clubs, and in a way I feel quite embarrassed calling you a City Academy player when there's so many other things I could describe you as. But tell us about your time when you were at City.
Oh, loved it. It wasn't the academy in those days, it was like YTS apprenticeships.
Right.
And I had 2 years there as an apprentice and then a year professional, and it was just one of the best times of my life, and very, very fond memories. And it's great to see the club, the best in the world at the minute. But I just thought the fans at the time and everything, Ollie, it was just a proper football club.
What's the closest